Yoda, I am. Yes. A scruffy looking Nerf Herder.
Every time I see Yoda hit R2, all I think about is that video that your daughter showed me.
Yes!
Like every fucking time. It's like, man, we should just do an episode on that. And it
really
just be
should.
us, like, lip syncing to it or something. I don't know. Let's not do that. Anyways, welcome everybody to the Infernal Brotherhood of Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. This is a live Star Wars vidcast by Star Wars fans for Star Wars fans. And tonight we will be discussing the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend. You know what? I'm going to be looking back for. So whatever. Fucking Darth Plagueis. Sorry. I was going to read the whole tale
You
of him.
should have. That was the whole quote.
Well, I kept fucking missing my line. Because
Palpatine.
professional.
The Emperor.
This is one I don't know why the hell it's taken us so long to get to, with this, admittedly being one of my favorite Siths, like, if not my favorite.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely put him in top 3.
Okay, hold on.
Oh.
What's your top 3?
Well, I was getting ready to tell you before you interrupted me. Jeez. Kids these days. So first and foremost, Vader, because duh. And then it goes Plagueis, and then Nihilus. But depending on the day, those two kind of switch up.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's how fucking excited I am to talk about this today.
Sidious doesn't even make your top 3.
No, he's a close 4th.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's definitely top 5. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I would say top 3 just because, well, oof. It's rough because that Vader comic we just covered last month, that Sith Lord, that kind of broke the top 3 for me. Like, for me, it's definitely Vader, number 1, Sidious, number 2. I really liked that new Sith Lord.
Yeah, Lord Mammon or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, Mammon or Mammon or Mohammed.
Mammoth.
I think his name was...
There we go. It was
X.
probably Mohammed.
It was the most common name in the world.
Yeah, that's why he's a Sith.
Blends in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darth Plagueis the Wise was probably the greatest gangster novel ever written in the Star Wars universe, and then completely wiped out. Like a year and a half later from canon?
No.
Well, it was released in 2012. When did Disney take over?
I thought that was like 2014.
Okay, so 2 years later. 2 or 3 years
later. Yeah,
later.
pretty much it was like decimated.
Yeah.
Well, we don't actually know exactly if it was decimated. I mean, there's some things that don't count in it. Like Palpatine, like this is the novel that says, hey, Palpatine's only name is Palpatine because he's like, yeah, fuck everything else. I'm all about my surname. And now apparently his name is Sheev.
He's the prince of... he was the prince of Star Wars names until...
Pretty much. I would have Cher, but Prince is good too. Cher seems a lot more evil than Prince ever did, so that's why.
That's actually really true, yeah. Even, I don't know, this is total tangent. Did you ever see the movie The Mask? Eric Stoltz?
Oh.
Cher?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay, never mind. Sure. You got to see that show.
But
for some reason, growing up watching that show, it's about this disfigured kid who Eric Stoltz plays. He's just sort of, living as a disfigured kid, essentially overcoming obstacles of being a disfigured kid. Cher was his mom, but for some reason she was so rock and roll that she always seemed mean. Like, she didn't even project meanness at all in the show, but because it's Cher and there's fishnet and there's leather, I always just in my mind like, oh, she's mean. Like that equals bean to me. Too much Point Break is. I can't speak at all. Too much Point Break as a kid, I think, ruined me because anytime you see anyone in leather, in any form of leather, it's always a drug dealer, it's always a rock and roller, and it's always bad news. Don't know.
That's why I like to wear leather.
Yeah.
That way people know I'm dangerous. Avoid me. I'm going to talk your ears off Star Wars shit.
Okay, sorry. So we're back to Plagueis here.
Yes, back to Plagueis. The wonderful novel that was made that was released. Sorry, it wasn't fucking made, but it was released in January of 2012. Originally, though, which is fucking bullshit. Like, I remember when they actually put the kibosh on it the first time, like, I threw a fucking fit. But originally it was supposed to be released in October of 2008. And I was, like, fucking just beating the shit out of my dick waiting for that to come out.
Jeez.
Like, I was so excited. Well, especially because, like, Revenge of the Sith, that's one, I mean, aside from obviously, like, the newer movies, like, that's one that really stuck with me seeing in theaters because I was, like, really old enough to completely appreciate everything. And then, you know, just the tale of Darth Plagueis, like, that stuck with me so fucking much. It's like, I want to see this powerful Sith. Somebody that's even more powerful than Palpatine. So I was super excited. And then, you know, George Lucas is like, meh, I don't want it right now.
That sounds exactly like him too. Well, here's the thing that I don't know that people fully appreciate in the time that we came up with Star Wars, because we were teased, we were dick teased for like 30 fucking years about what the Sith were. We were shown Vader, and he was like the biggest, baddest dude on the block, and it was teased that Palpatine, Darth Sidious, was something greater. He clearly had Vader under his thumb. I mean, you never really fully understood what that relationship was like. You knew Vader always kowtowed to him, but you didn't understand the dynamic of the relationship or how it really came to be. There was just sort of, you know, teased in most cases for the original trilogy. You had some expanded universe information that was released before we got episode 1, but we were starved for what the Sith were for like 30 years. And then we got Maul in episode 1, and you got those scenes in the trailer of Darth Maul like flipping around and like lighting the lightsaber, and it goes out both sides. And at that point, we had some Jedi Knight video games, and so we were sort of exposed to this idea of what the Sith were, and there was some Old Republic comic books that were released that like explained what the Sith Order used to be, but we really had no direct like modern era idea of the complexities of the Sith, what the Rule of Two actually meant for anyone, because the Bane novel wasn't released yet. And so you really were relying on Old Republic comics to learn anything about the Sith. And then you get the original or the prequel trilogy, and it breaks everything open. We're finally shown that, holy shit, Sith are badass. Like, they're flipping around, taking on 2 Jedi Masters at the same time, killing Qui-Gon Jinn, murdered Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, set up as the most badass pupil of Yoda, on par with Count Dooku. Like, this was someone that rebelled against the Jedi Order and, like, you know, bossed around Obi-Wan, who we knew would later be the mentor for Luke Skywalker, who fulfilled his father's destiny. So this is like a badass of badasses. And this one dude kicked both of their asses, and he actually reported to someone else, this Darth Sidious, who then we were, you know, shown who he was in Emperor Palpatine. And that completely painted the light of Darth Sidious in a completely different way than we were ever shown in the original trilogy. Like, this guy had it together. He had some stuff going on that we never even considered, and we still didn't know, but it presented a side of it that was deeper, this deeper understanding of the Force than we could ever play. And this scene right here in episode 3 is where we first hear in canon reference of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and it insinuates, though it never explicitly states, that he is the master of Darth Sidious himself, Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
This is when we first
love that.
Like, really know that there is a legacy here, like a direct lineage of not only not only Sith strength in this absence of, because ultimately, you know, when we were first introduced to the idea of Jedi, it was Obi-Wan talking to Luke Skywalker in Episode 4, A New Hope, the very first Star Wars movie ever released, and he said the Jedi Knights have been protectors of the galaxy, of peace, or the protectors of peace in the galaxy for like over 1,000 years or something like that. 1,000 years, or 1,000 generations. I mean, this is a very long time, like an insanely long time. And then suddenly we learn, no, there are Sith that have been out there secretly vying for the right moment, putting like chess pieces in place in order to, and we didn't fully understand that until we got Episode 3. And so the pure insinuation of the idea that the Sith were active, so much so that they could actually manipulate politics, worlds, the galaxy at large into completely not only taking control, but disintegrating the Jedi Order from the inside. Like, mind-blowing type shit.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy, too, because essentially, like, the time frame we're talking about, it's 2 fucking people. 2 people. I mean, yeah, Dooku's working with the Separatists and all that shit under Sidious, and
but that's the strength of the Sith.
All, but still, yeah, it's 2 people that are completely rebuilding the galaxy in what they want it to be.
So amazing. And then we get this book. James Luceno writes this amazing crime story drama that is centered around Darth Plagueis the Wise and his not only discovery from his master, Darth Tenebris, a Bith, which is probably, in my opinion, the worst Star Wars species ever, just because they look like doofuses. I can't handle the Bith. Look at that. That's not scary.
It's got fucking Force Lightning, red Force Lightning, mind you, coming out of his hand. When have you ever seen red Force Lightning?
I feel like he gargles a lot when he speaks.
Well, yeah, he's a Bith, of course. That's why he's got those aspirators on him.
Where's his goddamn flute? Like in Jabba's palace. I just feel like he should be playing an instrument. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so the discovery of Darth Plagueis begins with Darth Tenebris, who tries to find a worthy apprentice. And again, this speaks to the not only the tenacity, the patience, but the vision of the Dark Lords of the Sith in order to wait patiently for the right apprentice to come along that will be of significant power in order to fulfill and further the legacy of the Sith, knowing full well that, they're going to be killed themselves.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's a fucking tenacity right there. Well, and it, especially in Plagueis' case, like the long game that Tenebris was playing, like, he wasn't fucking around because he was following that family line because he knew that family line was going to pop out a proper apprentice for him. And he waited and waited and waited until, oh my God, how did I forget his real name? Damago or some shit. Higo, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's Higo Damask. But yeah, like he waited generations just for Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
It's wild. So as soon as Darth Plagueis is born, Darth Tenebris takes him under his wing. And so at this point, Darth Tenebris, I mean, he's sort of the originator of the manipulation of midichlorians. Like Darth Plagueis, he's getting it from his master. He takes it to like many levels beyond, but he starts with what? And this is another thing that I thought was so fascinating, that you and I have spoken to this in the past, where I think the relationship between Vader and Sidious was different than any other Sith master-apprentice relationship we've ever been shown. In that, Sidious never really taught Vader the way that Plagueis taught Sidious, or Tenebris taught Plagueis, or so on and so forth up the lineage of Sith. Like, there was this relationship that existed that Sidious completely broke down because of his sheer I don't know, his obsession, his connection with the dark side itself. Like, I don't know, what is it that...
I believe that's what it is. I mean, he believed he was the ultimate power.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wanted to, in the case of his death, destroy the entire fucking galaxy because they weren't worthy of it.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, you never really see Vader going after Sidious. I mean, there's a couple tiny moments in like the comics and shit like that, but it's never to the extent of most master-apprentice relationships where it's like he's coming for blood and they're both getting fucked up in the end.
Well, there was this really wonderful sort of assumed moment, purported moment in Empire when Vader reaches out to Luke, his son, saying, "Join me and together we will rule this galaxy as father and son." Like, I can't defeat the Emperor alone, but I know you can because he's seen it. Like,
Yeah.
I need you. So there was very much a place where Vader like realized, I'm not the one to take over. I'm not the one to overthrow. I need my son to help me do it. And maybe it's just the realization that, hey, I'm in this fucking metal body and that is hindering me. I need to constantly use the Force itself in order to move and interact with the world. And so that's limiting my potential. But whatever the reality behind it, he knew that he just couldn't. And I think that's part of the reason why Sidious was so disdainful to Vader. That's why he was so disappointed in him ultimately. And he constantly challenged him because he was like, look, you will never defeat me. You were once going to be the chosen one that I corrupted and just completely ruined into this glorious Dark Lord of the Sith, and then fucking Obi-Wan fucked it up. So now, like, you're nothing. You're a shadow of what you once were. And so he just sort of shit on him his entire existence until Luke came around. I don't want to jump too far ahead here because once Plagueis started interacting with Tenebrous as Sith Lord, Master, and Apprentice, he started getting a sense of ambition. And that's going to completely lead us literally to Vader in different ways, whether it's through the canon or the legend realization. And I want to cover both because I do think they're worth having a conversation about.
Oh, of course.
But can we go back a little bit into the discovery? Like how did Plagueis destroy Tenebrous, and what do you think was the greatest lesson Tenebrous taught Plagueis?
Oh man, see, now you're making me jump through my notes. Where do I have it? Holy shit. Blah 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 blah. So really, what Tenebrous had taught him was, I mean, of course, aside from the basics and all that shit, was that he was learning to control midi-chlorians. He was able to recreate some life, nothing major, and it never lasted. But like an idiot, he showed Plagueis, and Plagueis just kept going with it. In the end, once Plagueis felt he could actually, control it better, or as well, if not better than his master, he decided he was going to try it out. So he offed his master by snapping his neck, and then kept trying to revive him. And ultimately, he ends up dying. But yeah, he brought him back a couple of times.
That's what I loved about Plagueis so much. He was very much the Dr. Frankenstein of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and it was so cold about it too. Like there was no real joy, but no real anger. Like even killing his master, I mean, he really had to do a number on him. It was all just for research. And,
I mean, they were researching cortosis, the mineral that was resistant to lightsabers.
Yeah, that's where it went. Yeah,
and stuff. And he like brought down a mine on top of his master, and he like accidentally, like literally murdered him, and he wanted to keep him around longer to study him. But that's
the best part is too. He knowingly not knowingly. And apart from destroying his master, he also destroyed his fucking ship. And it was like, well, I'm probably going to die here, but let's see what I can do.
Yeah. He was so obsessed with the idea of manipulating midichlorians and finding out what were the extents of his ability to manipulate them through the dark side of the Force, that he actually lost sight and lost the will to exercise his own will on the world. And this was really where I thought it was most fascinating, because
Oh, absolutely.
as soon as he like really captured the attention of Sheev and manipulated him into being his apprentice, he and really setting their sort of chess world of separatists and the Jedi and the Senate, the Old Republic Senate, into order. Once he set those pieces into play, he withdrew completely. Like, he was so obsessed with not only preserving his own life, but trying to create life, that he like let Sheev go off and do his own thing. And that is when Sheev had the opportunity to truly turn the tables on him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was extremely blinded. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, his own ambition blinded, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the crazy thing is, too, like, he was a smart guy, like really fucking smart. And he was a member of the banking clan. Like, he was one of the highest ranking officers of the family. So, I mean, he was... No one knows wealth like the Munns, and he was the top of the top in that planet. So I think that's part of his problem too, is just he had all that extensive wealth that he's able to use however he wanted, that he felt like nothing could touch him.
Yeah.
And then he only gets attempted assassination or assassination attempts a couple of times, so it's really not that bad.
Yeah. What I did like about that novel is when he discovered that his master, Darth Tenebris, had actually trained other apprentices that never quite lived up to his own skill. And so he hunted them down and their apprentices down and murdered all of them to ensure that he was the only true successor of this.
Yeah, he was definitely sticking to that rule of two shit.
He took it literally.
And I just love too, like the interactions with the other quote unquote Darths. Like they're fucking talking shit on each other. It's like, one of us is gonna die. Yeah, you're kind of a cocksucker though. So yeah, whatever. Let's see what happens.
Well, this is why I found it so fascinating when Darth Sidious was gifted Maul as a creature to train, and then he trained him as this Sith assassin rather than a formal apprentice. Yeah, I mean, ultimately that tainted Maul, and it really made Maul dislike and distrust Sidious as a master, which maybe ultimately led him down the path that he ended up going down. Yeah, but it also limited his abilities because he didn't fully teach him like he could, like he would then later teach Vader to some extent. Maul could have literally been like the greatest Sith, before Vader. Oh,
easily, especially given his lineage. I mean, he's the literal heir of Mother Talzin. Like, I mean, he was born of the Force and the dark side. So, yeah.
And we've done a whole show on Maul, I think. We've done a number of these. I think we've done Maul, haven't we?
No.
Really?
I know we did
no,
one
we did Witches of Dathomir.
Yeah, we didn't.
That's what it was. We've got to do a Maul one. Okay.
But that's a quick side note. That is one thing I will warn anybody that hasn't read this book that's going to want to check it out after this. Remember, it's not canon and nobody gives a shit anymore. But this book, honestly, this made Maul look like a complete fucking little crybaby. And that was the only part of this book I didn't like.
Well, see, and interesting enough, that's what I love so much about it. We were presented with a Maul, and when this was released, it was canon. It was, a couple years after that, it was stripped of that. But that's what I like so much about it, because we were presented with this, my apprentice, Darth Maul, will take care of the Jedi. And yes, he, I was speaking gloriously of him as he destroyed Qui-Gon Jinn, and he did such a wonderful job against Obi-Wan until his ultimate end, seemingly, in Phantom Menace. But again, if he was such a powerful Dark Lord as he was purported to be, why was he so easily defeated by an apprentice? And so I liked the idea that the book presented him as, no, he was just an assassin and he wasn't fully trained because Darth Plagueis would not have allowed Sidious to have his own apprentice.
Yeah.
He was only allowed to have this assassin if he kept him under specific guidelines and doing specific things, which then explained to me as the viewer, like, oh, okay, that's why. He was never fully trained as a Sith.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he was so easily defeated by an apprentice, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of like that because, of course, there's going to be animosity if your master is clearly not teaching you. You don't understand the politics of the Sith. All you know is you were born up and raised to fight and murder, and this guy is clearly holding you back and having you do these really base assassin-type jobs when you can feel your direct bloodline lineage of the Witches of Dathomir. There is more power within you that you are not able to tap.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's kind of why I was okay with it. But I did like that new presentation of Maul, you know? And so the next part of this is clearly, as soon as, can we talk about Palpatine really quick? Like early Sheev Palpatine.
Of course.
What made him such a good apprentice, in your opinion?
Well, the way that Plagueis found him is with Sheev's money and his power and all that stuff. He knew he was a Force user, but he tried to keep it under wraps because he did not want to become a Jedi. And a lot of his time off from doing senatorial work and all that shit, even as when he was a child, was searching different planets for different artifacts. And he wasn't biased. Like, he would take whatever artifacts he could, but he, of course, drew more towards the dark side. And that's ultimately how Plagueis found him, was when he was searching for shit. He's like, all right, how the fuck is this kid knowing, oh, I need to go to this random planet and I'm going to find this fucking holocron? So, I mean, yeah, he's already somebody that's well-versed in the ancient tomes, ancient practices, the alchemy and all that stuff. So it's like almost a no-brainer, like he could pick up stuff from him.
Yeah. That's what I loved about it, too, is because it sets Sheev down the path that we ultimately realize who he is at the end of all the cartoons and all the movies and everything, where he was a student more than anything else. He was a student of the dark side, which is what made him so different than every other Sith that we've been presented on. You know, Darth Vader was literally a force of nature. Like, he was death incarnate, the Force. He was a master of murder and pain. Sidious,
absolutely.
He was a straight up student. Like, the entire time, he nothing more than a scholar.
Oh yeah,
which is why I love
even
him so
in
much.
death. Like, that's the crazy thing, is even in death, he was still somehow constantly pushing to learn new things.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the whole idea of the First Order and the wild space and all that.
All of his little outposts trying to reach out to what was calling out to him in the Aftermath novels that were completely dropped by every fucking writer. It was such a wonderful fucking... Okay, I don't want to go.
Fuck that. Let's get into it, damn it.
Well, that's what's so frustrating about this, is that if you look at Star Wars canon, all the novels, whether they ended up dropping or changing some of the truths that previous novels or comics released, there was a shared universe that one logically followed the next, that made references to the previous canon. And we had these wonderful Aftermath novels that were released that literally had characters featured in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi that had started from, but they never referenced any of the material, all of the secrets. All of the wonderful acolytes from beyond, all of this wild space, evil, dark side forces that were calling out to Sidious himself. It was all just like, I got something better to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Rey.
Yeah,
Like,
thanks,
what the
Ryan
fuck,
Johnson.
man?
Fucking asshole.
You had this guy, this author, doing this wonderful work, all this wonderful canon work, and you just ignore it all. And then all the wonderful things that were set up in the fucking 7 were ignored in 8. So it's like, what the fuck is happening now? Like, we just forgot that one story is supposed to lead into the next? And what is this, like a Tales from the Crypt anthology now?
Hey. No, because those tie together, god damn it.
I love Tales from the Crypt. I'm just saying isolated stories.
Like Tales from the Hood 2.
Ooh.
Because if you've seen that, it's bad. I fucking love Tales from the Hood. Like that's definitely one of my favorite horror anthologies. But the second one,
that's one of your favorite? Tales from the Hood?
Yeah. When was the last time you saw it, Adam?
I mean, when it was released, probably.
Okay, you need to watch that shit again. Like seriously, Tales from the Hood is one of the best horror anthologies. I would easily put it. No, I would put it in top 10 best horror anthologies.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean, I'm also probably biased because I used to rent it from Blockbuster all the time. But still, like
for all of you who don't know, Blockbuster was a video store when there was something called VHSs that you would rent from places called video stores.
Yeah, back when movies actually meant something to people.
When you couldn't just download them on your fucking phone. You had to get like a fucking device to play them and then put the cassette into the device.
The screen was still only about like this big, but the box around it was like massive.
Right, what are we doing? What are we doing here? All right. Yeah. Joe in the chat room is saying, I hate Sith posers worse than TST. Rent Blockbuster? What is this witchcraft? This is when the Sith were young, my younglings.
Yes. That's how they learned.
Oh, man.
Where were we?
But this is, okay, so this is why I loved the you get a sense, you know, when we were introduced to that new Sith Lord, Momin, in the Darth Vader series, that's part of what I love so much about the Sith, is you get this true sense of this is what was important to that particular Sith Lord. Like, his was this obsession with art and capturing chaos in art in real life. Vader's was destruction. Sidious was study and academia. Plagueis was life, the creation and sustaining of life. Tenebris was the manipulation of midichlorians, and then who knows what's before that, because it's not even really, you know, for 1,000 years described.
Yeah.
But you got this sense of who these individuals were, and yet they still ascribed to the same ancestral order of, I will raise a future master, a future Dark Lord of the Sith, in order to take my place, and I will pass down this lineage of knowledge. And I guess, you know, realistically, it could be argued that Plagueis was the first one to start to deviate from that, because he clearly did not trust Sidious as the novel progressed near the end. Like, he knew Sidious was planning stuff, like he had his own machinations behind the scene. And he was just, like, at that point, he just survived some assassination attempts, and so he was doing everything he could just to sustain his own life.
Oh, yeah. He was pretty bad towards the end with prosthetics and shit. Didn't leave his little laboratory or anything.
But wasn't that a wonderful way to sort of foreshadow the way that the Vader could survive? Like, Plagueis witnessed his own master doing it, and then used that knowledge and built on it in order to make sure that Anakin could survive. And so this is where I want to talk about Anakin, because in the novel, it is presented in a way, and this was my understanding, please tell me if you disagree, that collectively Sidious and Palpatine, Plagueis and Sidious saw the Chosen One as a reaction to their manipulation of the Force, not as a direct creation of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was literally the Force balancing itself out because they were drawing so heavily from the dark side.
Which then goes to prove out the vision of the Force that it seems The Force Awakens was presenting, but is certainly in stark contrast to what Charles Soule was presenting in the Darth Vader comic series that was just ended, you know, a couple months ago, where it literally presented Palpatine like as the creator of Vader himself, of Anakin himself.
See, I still argue that shit. Like, I mean, whatever. If that's what it is, that's what it is. But like, because I was having that discussion over the weekend with one of my employees, because he had just finished it, because I brought it in for him to read. And it's like, there's so much symbology in that final scene of him being on the other side that could just be symbolic of he knows that Palpatine created him, but he created Darth Vader, not Anakin proper. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know if I buy that yet. I think I'm just shaking my fist in the wind. Really bad.
I mean, I feel like it was presented as an assumption before I ever read this novel, Darth Plagueis, that they created. And I don't know, like watching the prequel trilogy over and over again, episode 1 at the very end where Senator Palpatine is looking down at Anakin, I'll watch your career with great interest. Like, it feels like he knows who he is. Like he has like an inside scoop. And the fact that they had such a close relationship throughout all the early years, he became a trusted confidant to him throughout episode 2 and episode 3, so much that he was grooming him to be his apprentice. And of course, you know, with hindsight, if you're watching this young Jedi coming up in power, clearly you want to try to manipulate him into your own apprentice. He's resonating greater than even Yoda within the Force. I mean, that's something that Qui-Gon Jinn straight up said in episode 1.
Yeah.
So we could always lean on that rationale. And then we could always also lean on the rationale in the novels that they knew that he existed out there because they felt his presence in the Force. Like you know, the Force literally created a counterbalance to what they were doing. They had to find some way of stemming that tide so that they could fulfill their destiny as they saw it, in which they did brilliantly, of the destruction of the Jedi Order and the Jedi ultimately.
Yeah.
Even through the sequel trilogy, apparently. But I don't know. Like, I just always felt like there was a closer connection. And that's why I was so content with the way that Charles Soule presented it, where it was like, okay, I kind of like the narrative that Darth Sidious took the lessons from Darth Plagueis of sustaining and creation of life, applied it to the slave woman, created literally a personification of the Force, and manipulated that to the dark side as Darth Vader. Like, I love that. Like, that just puts Darth Sidious on a completely different platform of evil than any other Sith before him.
Okay, fine. Point taken. I mean, that is cool putting it that way. I don't know. I guess I just didn't want to believe it. Yeah. I wanted to believe the midi-chlorians. God damn it.
I mean, I'm not averse to the idea. I think there's a greater...
No, I'm just kidding. I fucking hate that part.
There's a greater tragedy to say that, you know, you do literally your life's work is to create this Sith Lord, and he gets decimated by his best friend, and you're doing everything you can to keep him around just to fulfill your Sith legacy that you've had in play for a good 60 years, just you knowing that the Sith Lords before you, 1,000 years before that, just to have it totally ruined by Obi-Wan. Which is just like, motherfucker.
That's probably why I was so fucking angry. Like that's why he put into play the fucking Death Star. It's like he wanted to throw a fit, but he was too powerful to just smash shit around. So I'm just gonna blow shit up.
I would be so angry. I created the greatest.
Yeah.
Like the greatest murder machine, and I have total control over him, and then you just cut all of his limbs off? Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, it was pretty fucked up of him.
It's so funny.
Especially to be sitting there crying and calling him your brother, and then you chop his fucking limbs off.
I loved you. You were supposed to be the best of us. You were supposed to make balance to the Force, not destroy it. Oh, it was so great. And he just fucks him up. Oh, that's what I love about Obi-Wan. We got to do a show on Obi-Wan. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, where are we? What are we talking about?
I don't fucking know.
I'm still on Obi-Wan.
We're talking about, we didn't even get that far. So yeah, Tenebris is dead. There's the first chapter.
Chapter 2.
Yes, and chapter 2. Well, fuck, where do we leave off? Him finding Palpatine, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we just get the training, and it's I already fucking lost.
It's fine, and we got to the idea that as he put Palpatine in a position of power, he was all doing it under the guise of, you're going to put me as the number 2.
Oh yeah, that was, well, I mean, that he was the financial backer, and Palpatine actually like manipulated him in the way of it being they were going to be the leader together, where Plagueis was the mastermind and Palpatine the face, because Muns are fucking rich as hell because they control all of the galaxy's wealth, but if you've ever seen what a Mun looks like, you don't want to fucking look at that thing. Yeah. Whereas Sheev, he's an attractive fucking dude, and he's charismatic, and he knows politics. So they pretty much worked each other over to get him into where he was.
But they did really have a great plan. Like, if the plan went off as, schemed, it would have been with the backing of Plagueis, Sidious gets in power, does everything that we already saw Plagueis do, except that he puts Plagueis in, Sidious puts Plagueis as the number 2 in charge, and they literally rule the galaxy as master and apprentice of the Sith Empire.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been
how vastly
everything.
Different shit would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I mean, and for those who may not know, Plagueis was around all through episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was in the background, like, helping Sidious do his workings.
Oh yeah.
Up until the point that he was elected, and that's when Sidious turned on him.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Well, I guess not spoiler alert. It starts the fucking book. But yeah, that's actually how he dies, is Sidious kills Plagueis the night before his coronation as the Supreme Chancellor. And, that would have been awesome to see them as the ruling power.
God.
I mean, granted, then we probably wouldn't have had the movies, but what? Go down.
There would have been no Rogue One. There would have been no New Hope.
No, definitely not.
It would have been brilliant. I always like this idea of doing a little bit of fan fiction with that, because if just one thing was different, if Luke was stillborn, or there weren't twins, or Obi-Wan never cut off his limbs and he was bested by Anakin, like if just one single thing happened differently, there would have been zero hope for the galaxy.
Oh yeah.
And as is, it was a minuscule hope, but at least there was something. Like, for 1,000 years, for an order to have worked in secret and subterfuge and manipulated the entire galaxy at large to gain absolute control and completely wipe out their opponents entirely. I mean, it is unbelievable in the realm of storytelling, and just speaks to the absolute power of the Sith itself and the majesty of Plagueis and Sidious as characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't stress that enough, how close they were to absolute success.
Oh yeah. It's the only thing that stopped it was fucking Palpatine getting too cocky.
Yeah.
And that was, admittedly, that was a fucking bitch move, how he killed him too.
It was.
Like, you imagine when a Sith apprentice takes out their master, it's some just battle of just pure force, pure power. Like, they both have their lightsabers, and they say, one of us is walking out, and we're going to be more powerful at the end. Right. And instead, he poisons Plagueis' drink, because Plagueis never fucking drinks, and he's only drinking because it's a celebration. And then that's it. Yeah. Like, oh, no, I don't feel good. Yeah, I know. And then he's gone.
Unlimited power! And bourbon. Have a sip.
Yes. The bourbon's limited, unfortunately, but it's to die for.
It's Alderanian bourbon. It won't be around for long. Trust me. Too soon? I don't know.
Too soon. It's been 40 years. I think it's okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, I love that idea. I always got the assumption throughout the novel that Sidious never fully learned the secrets to life. Like he was mystified at how his master was sustaining his life as long as it was, and he was worried that he wasn't even going to be able to murder him.
Yeah,
like he was. I can't, because it has been a couple of years since I've read the book, but I think he was worried after he killed him that he wasn't actually dead.
Yes, there was a moment at the end of the book, because of course the book starts and ends the same way. But at the end of the book, as soon as he kills him, he's like, "Oh, thank God, that's done and over with. Let's fuck some shit up." And then he just consistently had this nagging feeling of something bad is going to happen. And it never quite says that it was Plagueis, but it definitely alludes to the fact that Plagueis very likely had some sort of memento or whatever attached, or he was attached to, that was essentially how he's going to resurrect himself.
Yeah. And something that, for those of you who aren't familiar with Star Wars Legends, is the only way that a Sith was ever able to sustain their life after death was to attach their essence to some sort of token or talisman. Darth Bane did this in the Jedi Knight series.
Well, that's actually canon.
Right.
Like the Bane being, because of Yoda finding his crypt.
Yeah, which is great. Which is just great. But that's what I thought was so interesting, is that up until that point, Plagueis was trying to figure out a way to sustain his life, and he was successfully sustaining his own, to the bewilderment of his apprentice. And in this very scene right here, when Sidious is talking to Anakin, saying, "Look, he taught his apprentice everything he knew, but he never." Like, I always got the assumption he never taught him everything, but together we can learn how to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, like, whether it was explicit or implicit, like, I always got the feeling that Sidious still didn't get all the information out of Plagueis, which always left the door open. Like, okay, what if he didn't actually kill him? And then you have the Dark Empire comic series where Sidious actually resurrected himself via clones in his own Force entity. It always set it up for me in my head that Plagueis isn't dead. And so when we saw Snoke and we heard all the novelization of Snoke from episode 7 saying, "I watched the rise and fall of the Empire," it literally in my head just screamed, okay, this has to be Plagueis. And that's why so many people were so obsessed that this must be Plagueis, because he literally watched the Empire rise and fall. He learned how to sustain his life. It was always suggested that there was some other foreboding presence. Again, it could have been some other entity outside the known galaxy or whatever, but it was never explicitly stated, and so it left your imagination go wild. So maybe we can start the speculation train here, because that's pretty much the end of the novelization that we've covered.
Yeah.
Is the story of Plagueis over, do you think?
Realistically, probably. I fucking hope not. Like, especially with the whole Snoke arc, like, they really could have done that, and it would have just blown everybody's fucking minds. It would have been excellent fan service, and it would have added another level to, your average moviegoer.
And perfectly tied in so many different threads.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that would literally build the entire Skywalker saga into one piece. Because, admittedly, these films feel vastly apart. Like, yes, we've got Skywalkers in them. That's about it. Even the prequel trilogy, even though Anakin Skywalker is the focal point of that trilogy, it still feels so vastly different from the original trilogy. So if we had that one bit to carry over from the prequel to the final trilogy, I think it would just make so much fucking sense.
I want to explicitly state what that one bit is, just for everyone who may be a little bit vague here, because I think it's spoken out loud. It's a brilliant storytelling connection between literally everything of every trilogy. At the very beginning of episode 1, you have Sidious, who is purported to be controlling everything, but the truth is he's not. His master, Plagueis, is setting everything up and controlling everything, literally creating life from nothingness, just midi-chlorians of sustaining his own life. He's betrayed by his own apprentice, and he lays dormant until he watches the very creature who he and his apprentice were the reactionary causation to exist, the chosen one, came into being. And then his greatest Sith revenge on the universe, and not just the universe, but his own apprentice too, is to get that Sith to murder his apprentice on his behalf and to raise the grandson of that Sith to become the new true apprentice that he always wanted in the first place. That would have been the greatest storytelling connection between all of the trilogies.
Absolutely.
That
fucking literally.
God damn it, I want them to fucking do that. Do you think they will? Like,
no, it's too far gone to do that, I think.
There.
It is. It's so easy. And it would make everybody happy, but yeah, it's too easy.
It pains me because it would be so beautiful. Such a beautiful and so
plus then we could completely fucking forgive all the bullshit of The Last Jedi.
Yep.
I mean, sans Snoke dying, but if Snoke was an avatar of Plagueis, then he's not really fucking dead, just the avatar is dead. And maybe Plagueis comes back as his own self.
Yeah. But that would have been the brilliant turn of Luke. Because Luke fulfilled the Chosen One destiny that was the reaction to Plagueis' machinations. Like, that was the one character that fucked up his plans after he died, thanks to his fucking apprentice. If he could convince him to turn against the Jedi Order and abandon the Force and allow that vacuum to rise Kylo Ren, like, that's the greatest fucking storytelling ever. He literally took his fucking, the one person that destroyed his entire dream and vision of his entire lifetime of work, and he ruined him. That would have been brilliant. Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah. All right, JJ, you hear us, right?
Nothing.
Just do it.
Instead, we got fucking nothing. A meaningless fucking death for no goddamn reason. Fuck, man. It would have been so good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I gotta fucking, I'm sweating. I'm so upset right now.
Hey, it happens. Like anytime I read any of the Legends books, it fucking does that to me.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you ruin this? You should have just kept a tiny little fraction of this.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, so the other side of that is we have Disney Plus, where they're coming out with Mandalorian TV series. Limited series, we assume is going to be a few seasons, maybe more. We have Cassian Andor, limited series, a few seasons, maybe more. There's a hint that we talked about last episode about an Old Republic series. Who knows how long that's going to last? But if you were given the opportunity of a single live action movie about Plagueis, because it's a canon reference that has yet to be explored, that is ripe for fan service and truly good storytelling.
Oh, absolutely.
A movie or a limited series, what would you prefer?
Honestly, limited series.
Yeah.
Ask me 10 years ago, I'd said the opposite.
Yep.
But I mean, that's really where proper storytelling is nowadays, is with television. You can do so much more, and it's ironic. And I'm even speaking from personal experience. Like, I fucking love movies, but go see a 3-hour Marvel movie or sit down and watch 10 hours of a fucking television show.
Seriously?
I'm going to sit down and watch 10 hours of a television show because I got to sit in my fucking sweatpants with my finger at my nose and a bag of popcorn.
Yeah. I got one hand on my dick, one hand in my nose. I'm good.
Yeah, they could explore so much more with that too, because I mean, even sticking with the standard 2.5 to 3 hours that they're going with these films, that's still not very much storytelling, especially for such a complex character that we've had in canon for 15 years, 16 years now.
Yeah.
So I really think, like, at least a 6-part series could possibly do it justice.
Yeah. And they could even do more than that. Like, if it is revealed in episode 9, which I don't think it will be, but if it is, that Plagueis has something, some legacy to carry on in that series, there's a whole nice shirt, by the way. This is the first time I'm actually noticing your shirt.
Yeah, it's like that shit.
I do.
If you guys want one of these shirts, you can get them on reverendcampbell.com.
I really like the idea of a series. If for no other reason, HBO showed us that you could have a TV series that was about a bad guy and root for them. They did it with Oz and they did it with Sopranos, and it literally
They did it with Spawn too. Just saying.
That's true. They actually did. But that was a cartoon before.
I don't fucking care.
I'm just saying, live action stuff, like adult primetime level stuff, like they broke grounds with HBO.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now we're in a place where I don't need blood and gore. I don't need tits hanging out. If you just do a really great bad guy PG-13 on Disney Plus about Plagueis' rise to power and influence over Sidious, I would buy that entire platform for years just to watch and rewatch that series.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, admittedly, they could even do a PG.
Yeah.
Like, especially if they went like the crime lord like route. Just saying, because I mean, really, he doesn't do much assassination.
Right.
Like, he's the brains behind everything. So he's the one that's working behind the scenes. He's the one that's fixing the numbers with the banking clans. He's the one that's sitting in his lab figuring out, how the fuck do I make this a real thing?
It could just be a suggested violence, purely analytical brain type mob story. You know, this money launderer taking power over a politician. Like, that's our world right now. Like that would be great storytelling. Oh, you could do such a wonderful story within the Star Wars universe with that. And you could have like B stories, like if you did B story arcs of Sidious, like seeking out and discovering ancient Sith information. Oh, God damn it. It would be so good.
See, now you're bringing up shit that has to be a series. Like, there's no way that could be just like a mini series, because the arcs that could go with that. Because I mean, Palpatine really, like, we don't have much of him.
Right.
And there's so much, because when we first come in contact with him, you know, he's an older man. He's already a senator. He
seems to be at the top of his game.
Life. Yeah. It's like, give us the shit before that. There's so much room, like so much backstory we need, especially with that character.
I mean, he straight up murdered his family.
Yeah.
And that was when Plagueis realized, you're the guy for me. That was
He's like, oh, you only did that so you could have their money? Fucking let's kick it, homie.
It was just like, that would be a great series. It's like the Young Hannibal series. I mean, except it would be Sidious. And that's, I think, the strength of Plagueis' story is its contrast with Sidious. That's where you get this wonderful dynamic, because you have Plagueis on the grander world scale, literally setting chess pieces in motions on a political and economic galactic board, and you have Sidious playing local politics. It's all centered around Naboo and researching dark side knowledge throughout his entire youth. He's the serial killer of a larger mastermind who is sort of feeding him. It could be a brilliant series. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll never be made.
No, it never in a million fucking years. But you know what? We also never thought we'd get more Star Wars movies. So
that's true. So who knows? Oh man,
keep my fingers crossed.
What would you prefer, an Obi-Wan series or a Plagueis series?
Oh, absolutely a Plagueis series. I love Obi-Wan, but we also got 4 movies of him.
That's true.
We have nothing except for a little tale in the Senate of Darth Plagueis.
I would be so upset if in Disney canon they make Sidious totally made up. I'm sorry, they make Plagueis totally made up by Sidious just to manipulate.
Oh God, yeah,
later.
That would be some fucking bullshit.
I would be so mad.
Well, especially with the fact that a lot of the things that were in the novel were, well, never mind. I guess I'm mixing my facts up because the Clone Wars was before the novel got released. So never mind. Retracting that comment.
Well, parts of it. I mean,
well, because I was gonna talk about how the book talks about the banking clans, the Mun, all that shit, and then in the Clone Wars they show that stuff. But the Clone Wars, where they were showing the banking clan, if I remember correctly, that was before the novel proper release.
I can't remember, but it couldn't have been too deviant because that was when they were still doing a really wonderful job in the storytelling group of connecting everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like George was in charge of everything at that point.
Yeah.
So I still think that it could have logically connected story-wise if they really wanted to reach out and make those connections. And that's what I love so much about being a Star Wars fan up until this sequel trilogy, is that you felt like you knew what this universe was. You had, and when there was something new, it was, you know, whether it was the Yuuzhan Vong or whether it was, you know, this ancient force, you know, we did this craziest Star Wars stories, and we had, I had talked about that, I can't remember her name now for some reason.
Yeah, I just drew a blank.
But that force female that was,
Abeloth.
Yeah, the Abeloth. Whether it was those just sort of out there weird stories or was it Dark Troopers, the novel where it was zombie, like a starship full of zombie death troopers?
God, that was such a good fucking book.
It was amazing, but you had these like wonderful little moments that were outside of the regular timeline, you know, that moved the story forward because it was all about whether it was studying life and the manipulation of life and ending in this catastrophe of zombie death troopers, or whether it was this ancient Sith presence that tied into the entire balance of the Force itself, or these outside the known universe species that are a genuine threat because for some reason they're blocked off from the Force itself and they're bent on domination. You always moved the universe forward in these really fantastical, entertaining ways. I just don't feel that right now.
No, it just feels like, well, I mean, even the title of a lot of the books fucking speak about what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you get the Journey to the Force Awakens, and then after the Force Awakens comes out, you get the Journey to the Last Jedi. Like, it's just books leading up to that. It's not books that are building new stories outside of the movies. It's just to get your ass in the seat for the next movie that comes out, and that's a shame.
And the worst part, I think, is that with all of the novelizations, all the comics, all the supplemental gaming material that was out there, you had genuine threats to the galaxy. They present in the films, at least, the First Order is a fucking tiny little ragtag group of fucking douches that just happen to have a lot of money and a planet killer that gets destroyed in the first outing of them. Like, and they seem to be only slightly larger in population than the Resistance, which is this tiny group of 7 people at the end of episode 8. So it really doesn't feel epic in scale anymore. It feels very minute and just like microcosmic.
That's true.
That was always such a big fucking bummer for me about all of this, is that, you know, we have these stories of Darth Plagueis who spent his entire life putting plans into motion that he didn't live long enough to foresee, and yet they all still came to fruition.
Yeah.
Like through his apprentice. You have Sith Lords living and dying for Sidious to be where he is, to do what he is and do what he did so brilliantly. And then after that, what? Like, fuck, man, it's just hollow bullshit. Like, let's get some epic storytelling back again. Oh, fuck, man. It kills me. So what were your favorite parts about Darth Plagueis the Wise? I mean, maybe not just the novel, but maybe just your understanding of him or the idea of him. What do you love most?
Just my understanding is he, aside from Palpatine, he just seemed so much of a student of the dark side.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's a powerful individual. Not somebody that's like, I'm a fucking master. I can do this. I can do that. No, like, a proper master is somebody that constantly realizes I can always do better. I need to do better. And I will do everything in my power to do better. And that was his whole lot in life. I mean, he originally he was a relatively, I guess, attractive man for his species. He was very outgoing. People knew him. Of course, he still had all his backside stuff, being Darth Plagueis. But, like, being the Bruce Wayne of the Darth Plagueis, like, everybody knew him and loved him.
That's an interesting way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't say that fucking earlier. I've been thinking that the whole time. But, like, all that aside, like, everything was just about learning. And that's just, I love that just so fucking much.
I want to piggyback on that because I think the strength of Plagueis is a different aspect of the strength of Sidious, and is that study. Like they're intelligent human, or not human beings. They're intelligent individuals.
Humanoids.
Yeah, they seek knowledge, and in our culture, bad guys don't do that. Bad guys are very much emotional, reactionary murderers, and that's it. Whether it's revenge or just they don't like you or whatever, they just go out and kill their unstoppable forces of nature or whatever. In the Star Wars universe, the bad guys are like nerds who study and use that knowledge to completely dominate the galaxy. Like,
well, and that's a proper bad guy, is somebody that legit believes in what they're doing. Yeah. Anybody can go out and fucking shoot someone. Anybody can go out and stab somebody. Anybody can punch a dog in the fucking face. That makes you a bad person. That doesn't make you a bad guy.
Right.
That's just, you're an asshole. Yeah. What the fuck are you going to accomplish? Yeah. Whereas with people like them, I mean, they, what the fuck do they accomplish? Well, they ruled the fucking galaxy and completely wiped out an order that
the entire order
part of the galaxy for God, at least
ruled for
9,000
generations.
Yeah,
completely corrupted them from the inside. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's a proper fucking bad guy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's as good a place to end it as any, I would imagine.
For me.
Yeah.
Just shy of a start and go on a fucking Mundick. Yeah, I think this is where we should call it.
And since their heads are so long and big, that dig.
Oh yeah, let's not do that. I got a really weak gag reflex. Yeah.
So messed up. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think of Darth Plagueis, the novel by James Luceno, or just maybe the character. Do you think he'll ever reappear in canon? What did you think about him in Legends? We appreciate your interaction, and we love to hear what you have to say. Of course, if you want to contribute to the show properly, you can always give us your my name is whatever your name is, and I'm a Scruffy Looking Nerf Herder videos or audio clips. As you saw at the very beginning, Yoda gave us his. That was definitely Yoda.
That was totally Yoda. Everybody fucking knows that. We actually, little known fact, this is behind the scenes shit. We're really good friends with Frank Oz.
Not to brag. But,
yeah, not to brag or anything. I'll pick that name up later, but whatever.
But you can always send us yours. So you can either email them to theinfernalbrotherhood@gmail.com, or send us through WeTransfer, or you can shoot them over at a voicemail account, a Google voicemail at 1-801-899-6168. Again, it's just an answering machine. Leave your drop. My name is Blah, and I'm a Scruffy Looking Nerf Herder. And we'll put it to whatever video you like, or we'll choose one for ourselves. Either way, you'll be a part of the Infernal Brotherhood history.
Fuck, we could probably also act it out, too.
That's true.
Just saying. That could be fun.
That'd be awesome. All right. Like, share, subscribe, whatever. This is also available as an audio podcast for those of you who may not want to watch the video at full length. But however you like to receive us, we're going to try to get it there. We appreciate your attention. May the Force be with you.
Your death will legitimize this title, Plagueis. I don't know why that was actually so hard to say. I got tongue-tied.
Your death legitimizes the
title. Yeah, fucking Plagueis title. Whatever.
What's that princess mean? Joe, I think my penis is getting smaller.
Hey, I have that problem too.